Hello and welcome to the IGN UK podcast. I am Alex and this week I'm joined by Joey Screbs.
Did you forget my name for a second there?
No, but I forgot what Jared called you in the US.
Jared Petty calls me Joey Screbs the British Invasion. In full every time.
Yeah. And that just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
It does. It's very much like, it's what you'd see written in a newspaper. That's my full title.
I've worked with US guys for a long time and I don't have a nickname like that. So you've obviously...
Are you jealous?
Ali Sim.
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'm like Ali Sim and Joey Screb. What's up?
Oh,
Ali Sim makes me sound like the most ridiculous YouTuber in the world, and I don't want to be called Ali
I
Sim.
would totally. Can we just like put your glasses slightly askew and then put your
Do not touch me. Do not touch me. Do not touch me.
That was genuine violence.
backhand from the editor.
The person who's annoying me to my right is Alysia Judge.
Hello.
Have you got a funny nickname?
I mean, I've got 9 different versions of my name because no one ever knows how to pronounce it. So I'm like, so there's Alysia, obviously. Then there's Alicia, and there's Elisa, and there's Alicia, and then there's Alicia. Alicia. I can't remember what ones I've already said. Then there's like the nicknames, like there's Al and Lissy and Liss. And I answer to all of these. So This is why, like, in the office, I'm constantly just like, I never correct people because it's just been...
You really
who gets
should.
your name wrong in the office?
There's quite a few people. I mean,
Tell me.
Chris
Does he?
for
Tilly?
a little while was quite...
What was he calling you?
I think it was... Alicia, which is classic. In fairness, it's Alysia. Makes no sense.
Yeah, it's like when people call me Joe. It's weird that. I don't know why so many people call me Joe.
Are they drunk?
No, just Joe. People pronounce it Joe.
Wait, are we being serious? I thought...
No.
Okay.
No, I'm just joining in.
You've just got
no way to relate.
You've got such a great poker face.
Yeah, that's just, I'm
I
really
believe
tired.
everything that you say.
You're really tired.
All right. Are we
really
showing off about being tired now?
Yeah, 3:30.
What? Why have you been up since 3:30?
Let's not bore our podcast listeners with
Okay.
my tedious life. I'd like to say, you know what, I was out at
Fighting
game launch
crime in lycra tights in the middle of the night.
in Berkhamsted.
Berkhamsted.
Ali Sim stalks the streets.
Proper awful outfit with my wonky glasses and hoodie. It's like, oh my God.
This is why you didn't want me to put your hood up. Is actually that's
You
your
recognise
changing
me.
mechanism.
Exactly,
It's like the Clark Kent glasses.
And then I'd have to go and bust some asses, and I can't do that right now. I'm just recuperating. Anyway, this is the IGN UK podcast, and we're going to talk about the highlights of the year so far. Because if you haven't realised, we're halfway through.
I can't
the
believe
year.
it.
We're further than halfway through the
Yeah,
year.
it was sudden,
We're late.
Podcast.
I know.
At the end of June.
I know.
This is as near as it gets.
This is as soon as
Is
we
this
remember.
how pedantic you are on most podcasts?
No, I was just thinking about it. I was just thinking,
go with the
why
flow.
didn't we do this ages ago?
Well,
Oh, wait.
4 days ago.
We were in E3, weren't we?
Yeah.
Not 4 days ago.
Oh, was it only 4 days ago? Feels so much longer.
It's the 5th
My
of
life
July
flies
when
by.
we record. Anyway, look, I've written down a list here. We don't need to stick to that, but I'm going to talk about some of my highlights. First of all, well, it's highlighting as a bit of a low light. The Division. I pumped a ton of time into The Division.
You did?
We all did.
Yeah.
You more than the rest of us.
Not Dale.
Oh, well, Dale's a maniac, though.
loved it.
I don't know how he gets so much time.
Well, not only that, but how he reacts to games he doesn't like that much. Like, when it came out, he's just like, I'm not really sure about it. I don't really know whether I like it.
Next thing he was
like gear score,
level
crack
30.
whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
Crack at it.
And there was that element of I need to grind, I need to level up, especially when the first kind of big DLC pack came out. But when it was targeted so much higher than I already was, I was just like,
Like, they really made clear that you have to keep up with the game in a way that I don't think is realistic for a lot of people.
No.
So, my unfortunate thing was I came in months later after it came out, after the wave of, The Division is great, kind of came in. So by the time I started, everyone was super high level. I was the level 1 noob running around getting picked on by all the kind of gangs. So I still really enjoyed it because I liked that idea. I like the idea of not getting picked on, but this is
being bullied.
I like
by
being
strangers.
bullied by strange people. By this idea of you can go around in gangs. That there is this not World War Z, Daisy. That kind of idea of this sort of So it was good. you had to go with the curve.
To me, it's one of those games that reveals itself to be a good idea rather than a good reality.
Yeah.
Like it's cool to see the Destiny thing transplanted into a Tom Clancy game because a Tom Clancy game has a very specific set of things that work really well.
And I love the Tom Clancy universe that does that kind of stuff. I love Rainbow Six. Really excited by Ghost Recon coming out. So,
but it's strange, like but once you pump, what I did probably 20 hours all told, I guess, and I kind of by the end of it I was like, okay, cool. That's all I needed out of it, and there was nothing more to it. There was no.
Well, I think that's part of the problem is that, like, obviously the appeal to Destiny I get from people in my Twitter feed is that some of the loot you get is kind of crazy and far out there.
That's exactly
and really unique.
Yeah.
Whereas with The Division, it's like, it's the same machine gun you had before, but its stats are slightly better. But it looks the same.
It's weird how much of a difference that can make. Like, it's very strange, the fact that it's so easy to be drawn in by just the aesthetic of something. Like, ultimately, Destiny is doing exactly the same thing.
Like, a weapon that's called, was it like Gjallarhorn or something?
Gjallarhorn is one of them,
I want to get that. I don't know what it does, but I want to get that.
I want it. It's
spent
shiny.
ages doing a quest for a shotgun called... oh, God, I can't remember the name. It's got a cool name. And
I wish it was called that.
Yeah. Oh, God! But the only reason I wanted it is because it has this brilliant bit of flavor text, which is something like, my mother used this shotgun to get us out on the day the city fell. And I was like, that sounds cool as hell. I want to use that gun.
Cool.
There is personality in each of the things that you're finding. Yeah. But like when you go and do a hard mission and then you get a set of knee pads at the end of it,
and when it's a lower level than what you've already got, you're like,
mad. Of all things, knee pads. Like, how many bullets are knee pads stopping? Like, walking around with big metal kneecaps. It's so weird.
Hey, I know how my character rides that sparrow. She bashes into everything. These knee pads are very important.
Well, no, because you get big, cool armor legs in Destiny.
Yeah.
In the Division, it's just a couple of pads. Like, they're not skateboarding. Oh man, imagine if you could get skateboards.
That would be really cool.
I'd get back into the Division if they introduced skateboards.
It does need something like that, because if you look at the way that we play Overwatch, and we'll talk about Overwatch shortly.
Yes, we will.
Probably quite a lot.
45 minutes.
Like, we all go around in a team, and we've played a lot together, and we did a bit of that in the Division, but it never really kind of gelled in much the same way.
Which is because in Destiny, like, I only really play it with other people. And I agree. Like, the Division, it just doesn't feel quite as multiplayer. And when Destiny first came out, I only played it single player. And it was such a different game. Like, it's really dull. I think these kind of games are the sort of ones where you do have to have a pack almost, as it were, and kind of travel around. I also found that because I was so used to Destiny, when you went into the Division, going to third person mode of like running around in terms of the shooting, I found really jarring. I don't know whether it was because I was
didn't mind that.
so used to.
Well, I suppose, like, on a fundamental level, Destiny and the Division, like, they are easily they're easily comparable, but they're completely different to play. Like, they are different shooting games. Like, I think it's easy to go, Destiny, set the mold here, and to a certain extent, I'm sure the Division was not that game.
Oh, absolutely.
Until quite late in development. But comparing how they actually perform is like, that doesn't really work, because Destiny is not a cover shooter. Destiny is a shooter where you're meant to be running up to things and punching them in the face constantly.
Titan fist.
Yeah.
I wonder how many active, I've no idea, but I wonder how many active users both games have. Because it still seems like far more people are talking about Destiny.
Yeah, and the group I played most of my Destiny time with are still playing.
Right.
Like, they're all on it, getting ready for Rise of Iron to come out. Yeah. Whereas the Division, I don't. Is Dale still playing it?
No.
Then I know no one who's still playing that game.
I know one person on my Twitter feed that's playing it.
Yeah.
But then
that seems crazy to me.
I don't really know anybody that was going to vote leave. Let's not talk about politics. What about you, Jay? What was one of your highlights?
I'll tell you what, it's not on your list, but it's something I really enjoyed. Not surprisingly so. I expected to enjoy it. Most people didn't. Quantum Break. Did either of you play Quantum Break?
I really wanted to, but I don't have an Xbox.
Right. Well, it's on PC as well. Windows 10 PCs. Yeah. It didn't really work very well, so I wouldn't buy it.
Exactly.
I played at Gamescom last year, and it didn't do much.
No? So I really, like, Remedy in general are just a studio who make games that I enjoy. That mix, their constant focus on, like, here's a weird story and here's some very good gunplay. That works for me. And Max Payne is one of my most fondly remembered games.
Right.
Like, I played that, I I've played that 4 or 5 times through. I think it's amazing.
Wow.
And Quantum Break feels like it is a worse story. Like, no doubt they are not good at science fiction. Okay. But what it is, firstly, it's a technical masterclass. Like, this is quite a small studio who have made the greatest facial technology I've seen in games. Like,
Seriously?
it looks amazing.
What, better than Uncharted? Because Uncharted looks pretty goddamn amazing.
Uncharted, so in the moment, I think Quantum Break is better. Like, if you're looking at faces moving just in normal gameplay, it looks incredible. I would say Uncharted is better in it. Its cutscenes and stuff look better.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a good point.
Yes.
But it feels like what they've done is gone. So Alan Wake had its own thing, which kind of got a bit repetitive, and it feels like they went back to basics and went, okay, what worked about Max Payne? And it was like messing with the fabric of the world as you shot things. So it's not just my gun shoots that thing. It's going, I can affect how that person's going to move and then then kill them in my fun ways. So Max Payne had his slowing down time. He could take out a whole room. With Jack Joyce, Iceman from X-Men, he can like stop that guy, rush to that guy, punch him, go over there at high speed, like make that barrel explode 4 seconds later, and it feels like a tactics game when you've gotten good at it. Yeah. I just think it's one of the best all-out shoot some stuff games that's come out in years, and I think it's been forgotten quite quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I think it's just a really good thing. I like that it exists.
Yeah,
I think I'm wondering why it got forgotten. Is it one of those things where it was so off the wall that some people perhaps didn't know what to make of it?
Well, I think there's partly that. I think it's also, firstly, being an Xbox One exclusive hurts every game that happens to.
Didn't hurt Uncharted though, being PS4 exclusive though.
Well, that's a different console. And I think it's a one and done game. You're going to finish it and you'll never go back to it. Like, even they did their whole branching storyline and TV program thing, but no one cares, and it wasn't good enough to warrant that.
That's interesting, because I heard someone saying that they did go back and replay it, and they found the replayability.
Well, that person's a maniac.
A maverick.
For me, not enough changes about that experience to warrant going back through it. Like, I played certain fights again because I really liked those action sequences, but as a storyline, it just doesn't matter. Is it sort of
Telltale-esque in that it makes it feel like you have a certain sense of choice, but actually the end goal is very scripted?
They said from the start that it's got a single ending. Like, so you knew, if you cared about the game up to release, you knew that you weren't going to go in and get a completely different experience to someone else necessarily. Yeah. But the ending it went to was just not exciting enough. It makes some very odd decisions. It seems like it's going in one direction. You're like, well, this is weird. I can't believe they're actually doing this. And then it just goes, oh, and by the way, here you go. It's done. And you're like, right, that's a bit odd. But yeah, I thought it was good. We don't need to spend much more time on it. I just liked it.
Cool. Fair.
Move on just like the rest of the world did.
Exactly. Let's forget.
Fair. Well,
what about you, Alysia?
One game that I feel like we won't move on very quickly from is a certain game called Overwatch.
You've gone there.
I've gone there.
So
I'm
early.
dropping the Overwatch bomb.
What I really like is that you've grouped this together with Battleborn on the list. Can I just point out my favourite thing about Schadenfreude are all over this, but Battleborn, the other day I saw a screenshot from Steam which said there was a game called something like Rats Go Crazy, some like indie game. It was like 166 concurrent users, and then Battleborn had 64 concurrent users. You're like, whoa, how much money has been flushed down the toilet with this game?
Goodness.
So let's move on from that.
Well, let's talk about Overwatch instead.
Yes.
Because I think we're all in agreement, like 2 weeks before that game came out, or before the beta, I don't think there was any interest whatsoever.
No.
I wanted to try the beta just to see what it was like, because I didn't understand the game as a concept. And I had a couple of friends who'd played the closed stuff. Yeah. And I was like, okay, this sounds interesting at least. Yeah. I thought it was a free-to-play game until like a month before it came out. Yeah. And then, I played the beta and went insane.
Yeah.
I went mad, started foaming at the mouth.
It was just so good.
Screaming about ults.
It is every single lunchtime we play it.
Yeah.
I'm literally counting down the minutes until lunch finishes. And when we near 2 o'clock, it's with a heavy heart.
Do you feel sad?
Like, that's the last game for this lunchtime.
Yeah.
Sad.
I don't remember the last time I played a multiplayer game where losing made me want to keep going.
Yeah.
Actually, the last time that happened was Titanfall. Titanfall has a really good way of dealing with you losing that makes it fun. But this is just like, I want to get better every single
And
time.
the other thing is, like, even when you do lose, you can see why you've lost.
Yes, so for
It's so transparent about what the problems with your teams were.
So yesterday we were playing in the office and we had 2 really, really bad games where we got
but I know
pounded.
why we lost.
But we knew exactly why, even as it was
Gav.
going.
Gav, that's why.
Gav! No, but yeah,
His mercy was nowhere near healing me. It's like, can you heal me? I'm up here. It's like, well, that's nowhere near where I am.
you'll know it. Just you need to be hitting that L1 button, flying straight over.
I'm a good mercy. Anyway,
You are an excellent mercy, actually. I remember we were once taking a point and you were just like, pew, 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 pew.
I hate games where I'm not the active shoot-in-your-face player.
Yes.
And the fact that I will quite happily play as Mercy in this is testament to
that's one of the things
why it's doing stuff differently.
I adore about Overwatch that it's made supports. It's like added a whole new element to these kind of team-based first-person shooters where actually support is vital and it's fun.
I almost wish they didn't do those groupings. Like, I see why they do, but there's things like, I didn't play Zenyatta for ages, and now he's one of my favourite characters. Like, I think barring maybe May, I've played him the most. And because he was a sport, and that's not how I usually play team-based games, I never tried him out. And I tried him once and realised he's incredibly offensive. He's got, like, this really interesting, like, he can heal people and debuff enemies at the same time.
I thought you were going to say, he's so offensive, he insults everyone on the battlefield.
Buddhist robot. And, like, it's just... He's brilliant, and he doesn't feel in that category of supports. All 4 of those characters are so different,
They are.
and you get this sense of this is all going to be old news to people who play MOBAs, I'm sure. Well, I've never enjoyed that genre, but there's something brilliant about just diving into a character and going, okay, what can I do with this person, and working out the tricks and how
I think
and the
that's
rhythm.
The point. Even players that I've like, Farah's my most used player, but I'm still figuring out different ways of like using her and like different positions and that's I feel like I've barely scratched the surface.
Yeah.
And there are probably about half a dozen characters that I've not even touched.
Yes,
And
definitely.
one of the best things is going on the Overwatch Reddit and looking for the play of the games from players who are really, really good with them.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't realise that Diva's like flying move.
Nuclear bomb.
Well, no, the thing where just her flying.
Oh, yeah.
She can, if she hits another character, she like bounces them off. And so there's the play of the game where she's just going around a team and knocking them off a cliff.
Off the map, right.
Yeah. And
That's
it's like,
epic.
it's amazing. And you're just like, oh shit, there's these tiny details in every single ability where you're like, I could use it like that, and suddenly it just opens your mind to how you play with that character again.
Yeah.
Does it
It's amazing.
does it, now that we're really familiar with Overwatch, does it make you feel slightly ashamed at the character designs that we presented all those many moons
No,
ago?
I stand behind Henri Horn, who I created, the man in a wheelchair with a tuba,
I'm not sure I would pick Thunderclap.
a big cloud with a face.
With the angry lightning bolt.
Did we actually talk about this on the podcast? Does this make sense to anyone?
I'm not sure.
I can't remember whether we did.
We all drew our own Overwatch characters,
Yes.
and then I took them to Michael Chu, the senior gameplay designer, and he
Suitably
shat all over them. It was so good.
There's a brilliant article on IGN where you can read all of his feedback.
Yeah, it was fun.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
But that's another thing. Like, Overwatch's character design is so... It's not just the way those abilities work, but those characters. I do actually want to know more about them. I'm deep enough that I'm interested in the lore, which I don't give a shit about in any game. But I like knowing little bits about this stupid cartoon world. And I am so excited for new characters. The idea of someone being added and shaking up how that game plays is absolutely amazing to me.
Because that's the thing. Like, I've played a lot of Rainbow Six, and you get new operators in that.
Yeah.
And I literally play them for about 3 or 4 rounds, and then I go back to my favourites from the old ones. Whereas I feel like I'd actually invest time into the new ones and
learning
figure
the
out.
new ones.
But do you think, have they announced how, is it they're just going to drop one at a time, or is it going to be one per class?
So their current plan is to drop one at a time, which has its benefits and problems. Like, for one, they get to see how a new character reacts and then immediately make tweaks if that character is no good. But on the other hand, it means that you're going to get games where literally for a few days, everyone is going to be playing that character alone.
Because they want to.
The reason they're doing that is because during the beta, they dropped D.Va, Genji, and someone else at the same time. And the effect of that on the game, they couldn't keep up with making tweaks to those characters because too much was happening and they couldn't keep track of the data. So it's probably the lesser of two evils. But then maps, they haven't said how they're going to drop them. I know for a fact they're playtesting one, at least at this moment. So,
how do you know that?
Because he said it on the forums. They have. This is one of the most boring things I'll ever say, but they have the most amazing community support on their forums. Like the director, the gameplay designer, and another guy, and their community manager are in there, like posting like 10, 15 times a day each.
Wow.
Just responding to things, getting involved in just talking about stuff that people are excited about, or saying like, I'm really sorry you had a bad experience, we're working on that. Like I've written like 6 or 7 news stories just based on the fact that they are this good at communicating stuff.
Yeah.
Most other people, I don't want to single anyone out, lots of companies will send out a press release like even days after the community has realised that a change has happened, telling them what the changes were. And in Overwatch, we get to know everything. Like the nerf to McCree, we knew 2 weeks in advance. Yeah. Everyone knew it was going to happen, and everyone was ready for it to happen. Yeah. And so no problems, no kickoffs.
Where's the Torbjorn nerf?
I think it's happened.
Has it?
I'm not
we
actually.
Were playing,
oh yeah, no, we got wrecked by Torbjorns.
Were there 3 or 4 of them in there?
Yeah. It's an incredible. Actually, it was an update yesterday, wasn't there? Maybe it was
competitive play, right?
No, we weren't playing competitive.
No, because competitive went up over the weekend.
Oh right. Yeah.
But I thought that was the update. I don't know.
Maybe. Anyway.
Yeah.
Basically, there's a Torbjorn nerf, and that's going to be good.
Okay. Which is going to upset Rory so much, because every time we play, he always gets play of the game. And it's literally just him running around the map.
Playing as Torbjorn.
Yeah, he's great.
And he's incredibly frustrating.
He'll still be good.
Against.
Like, the point, like, my feeling about that nerf is that it's actually too big on console. Like, the idea is that console players can't point at things as easily, which is true. That's just how controllers work.
But it's not quite that bad.
No. And also, I think the majority of losses to Torbjorn people is just because people don't know how to deal with turrets.
Yeah, exactly,
they are so easy to kill.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, we were fighting against 3 Torbjorns and we absolutely destroyed them because every time they set up one, everyone was like, "We'll just kill that."
Yeah,
obviously.
And for instance, you just send in a tank. The tank distracts the turret, and then you can send in someone else to like fire.
That's my favourite new thing is when there's 3 turrets and you just got a Reinhardt standing there going, "Well, keep shooting me."
Yeah,
someone's going to deal with
someone
me.
else deals with it. Yeah, completely.
It's great.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Overwatch.
We've gotten too deep.
Deep breath. Shake it off.
That's gone.
I love it.
I'm going to talk about some stuff that I haven't played, but I know that some of you have, and I wish I had.
Okay.
4 of them, or 3 of them. Firewatch, Inside, and The Witness. 3 of them. All really good games, and I haven't played a single one of them.
Firewatch is absolutely lovely. I think that. Have you played through it?
I've played a level of it, so you're going to be more of an expert than me.
Do it.
But it was a beautiful level. It was around a friend's house.
It's
gorgeous.
Firstly, it's gorgeous. Secondly, I know a lot of. Obviously, we're not going to get into spoilers and stuff because you haven't even played it. But it does something that I really like that I'm seeing more and more with games, which is to take you down a story that you feel is going one way and then does something else to you. And lots of people came out of it going, I was a little bit disappointed it didn't go where I thought it would.
Right.
And I get that, but it's also the point. The entire idea of the game is to make you feel like something and then to pull the rug out from under your feet and just go, and here's the reality. And that's perfect. That's how filmmaking works. I don't know why we're not aiming for this stuff.
You want to be surprised.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that all this walking simulator stuff is getting more and more time. Like Firewatch wouldn't have been made 5 years ago, and now that games like Dear Esther, which I think is not a good game and I did not enjoy.
Yeah.
I'm glad that was made so that people went, okay, there's a latent interest in this. How do we improve? And we're getting to this stage where we're actually getting things that look like high budget walking games with cool stories, things you've never seen before.
There was a run button.
Pardon?
There was a run button.
There was a run button.
The fact we wrote a story on a run button is like...
oh no, wait, that was Everybody's Gone to the Rapture,
Everybody's Gone to the Rapture.
That was the run button.
Right.
But same thing, they're both big budget.
Yeah.
Beautiful games.
Yes.
Although I think Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, they need to turn to a virtual reality game.
Well, just looking around an English village is nice.
Well,
I do that sometimes in real life.
I was going to say, can't you do that in real life?
Yeah.
We are fairly fortunate in that position.
That's true.
You just take a train at the centre of London. But I would definitely play it in VR. I know we're going slightly off topic here, but with Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, the issue was that you had the controller and then the screen and there was a separation, whereas the whole game was about poking about an English town, looking for clues, and if you were physically in that town, I think it would have made you feel so much more #immersed.
Yeah.
Well, one of my favourite things about Firewatch, unfortunately I played on PS4, but the PC version, you could do that thing where you find a camera quite shortly into the game, and like a little Polaroid camera, like a disposable camera, and you can just take screenshots as you go around. So in the PS4 version, I think it just displays those during the credits. On the PC version, you could get those developed as real photos and sent to you.
Oh, that's
which is like
cool.
The idea of taking like a weird game holiday and then getting a real souvenir out of it. I think is such a brilliant little idea.
That's a bit like the remember in the Last of Us DLC where you could go into the photo booth with like Ellie and her best friend. But that was just to your Facebook wall. But if I'd have actually gotten like the post a little photo booth thing, that would have been awesome.
I think that's brilliant. Yeah, I just think I think things like Firewatch are super exciting, and just having that difference of view to the rest of, like, because AAA games are never going to go away. I think this is what people get worried about, is that like, oh, our greatest developers are going to make things that I'm bored of. It's like, you're still going to get all the games you want. It's just people are now have the opportunity to make amazing different stuff for people who want that. Yeah, I really like it. In the same way that The Witness
I was about to say,
is the most insane puzzle game I've ever seen.
It's
in a good way, or I don't know if I've got the patience to
it was too much for me. But I know people who went so deep with it, and The Witness is so deep. Like, it's not one of those games where people are looking for shadows that don't exist. It is built as this crazy layered experience where you can look at something and suddenly realise after 40 hours that there is an entire strata of puzzles you've never seen before.
Right.
Again, I can't spoil what they are because that is the entire fabric of the game, but just walking around again, and it's the same thing as Firewatch. Walking around that place is half the experience. I spent 5 hours, I think, just taking pictures of stuff like with the share button. Like,
you
just
need to get out.
It's brilliant. When I can't go to real life English villages, I go to creepy puzzle islands.
The puzzles were insane difficult though. Like I never got anywhere near completing it. And I was talking to Dale about it because Dale got really far, and I was like, "Tell me your secrets in part, oh wise one." And he was like, "Well,
Google."
You know, there's the timed puzzles where like the puzzle like almost like changes every time in the setup, but you've got like a set amount of time to complete it.
Okay, yeah.
And he would basically take a screenshot of the puzzle on his phone and then
pause the game and
but like even pausing quite well, you have to put it into rest mode.
Oh my god,
he'd
really?
Then he'd put it into rest mode so it was completely paused, and then get a sheet of paper and then write everything out. And even then,
too much like hard
it was
insane.
I bought an app for my iPad so that I could take pictures and then draw on the screenshots to like find solutions and stuff. And then I realised that I was wasting my life, and actually the game was making me feel worse.
Did you not realise that with the sharing of the screenshots?
A little bit. Well, no, the screenshots were just nice. That was like, I was glad not to be interacting with the puzzles at that point because it was too stressful. I'm shit at puzzles, but like, again, that is a cool thing. And that guy got... And actually, weirdly, this fits with Inside. Like, Jonathan Blow and Playdead both got 6 years to make what is ostensibly an indie game. And the results of them completely bear out the fact of saying, like, just give these guys time and money. They can make what seems like a small experience something you've never seen before.
And also, I mean, like, we should probably talk about the multi-platform element of it because it's launched on mobile as well. I think it's...
What's that? The Witness?
The Witness, yeah.
Has it?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it has. I know that we definitely... So I used to work at a YouTube channel that was specialised in mobile games. And I know we definitely talked about it in our 2016 preview.
I had no idea about
as like one of the things we were most excited about.
That's a really good idea.
It was definitely in the preview. I don't know whether perhaps it's not launched yet, but I know it's definitely coming to mobile.
I would more likely play it on my iPad than...
I can see that.
Be in front of the screen for however long.
Yeah.
Also, anyone who can take the basic format of Myst, which is the most boring game ever made, and turn it into something I actually enjoy is well done them.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
And what about Inside?
Oh, Inside's maybe the game of the year.
Really?
Like, I've played it twice now.
Better than Overwatch.
Well, it's a completely different thing.
Of course it is, but if you had to pick one or the other...
Give me a couple more months on Overwatch to decide. It could go either way.
Well, so Inside is what, 2 hours long? Or
it's 4.
4 hours. Okay.
I've played it through twice.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that game.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it starts off. This is a running theme now, but it starts off going, "Hey, you're playing Limbo again. Enjoy this," and you're like, "Okay, cool," and then just goes places that game couldn't even dream of.
Right.
Yeah, it's incredible. We talked about it. I think we've talked about it the last 2 weeks. But yeah, it's unbelievable. And the most deserving 10 out of 10 from IGN. Like, I'm so glad we gave it that score. And 6 years. 6 years. And I worked at Official Xbox Magazine. I've been trying to talk to Playdead for so long.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, at the time, I was like, oh, fuck you guys. You will not talk to anyone. Yeah. Like, they just would not speak to us.
Yeah.
in retrospect, I'm like, I'm so glad you told me nothing about this. Like the idea that I went in blind and did not know what was going to happen.
I don't know anything about it, so I need to.
So it's out on PC next week, maybe this week.
Oh, wow.
I've got maybe it'll work on my work one, but I've got an Xbox at home.
Oh yeah, okay. It's so worthwhile.
Do you have a work Xbox here in the office at your desk?
No, but I've got one at home, and there are Xboxes around somewhere.
We just scatter them about like bricks.
Yeah.
I build a little house out of them. Little Xbox igloo.
It feels fairly decadent to have both stacked up on everyone's desks, which is why we've just got PS4s hooked up.
I'm happy with the PS4s. I've got my special shiny Uncharted PS4.
Are we showing off to the listeners now?
We are indeed.
But yeah, my God. Play inside.
I didn't even take that for myself. I thought that was very generous.
I was very generous, especially since at the time.
That's just because you want a Neo when it comes. We're only going to get one, and it'll be yours. So you'll get all the shiny textures.
I'm not that person.
What?
I'm not. I've worked with many people, many bosses who something comes in, and it's like, well, we really need that for work.
I'm not going on guesses. You literally said that to me.
I promise you.
Furiously.
Chances are I'll get one for home in addition to the work one.
Oh, of course.
But the work one will be shared by you guys.
That's very magnanimous of you.
Yeah.
But it's ridiculous if I took it. But I have worked with people where it's like,
I know.
around the launch of Xbox 360, before they were massively out of stock in the early days. I was in charge of doing the games coverage for the Mail on Sunday, and we got one in, and the editor took it because he wanted to give it to his son for Christmas.
Oh my God!
And then the news, the Daily Mail, they said we need another 2 in, and like my boss at the time, because he was a section editor and I was working underneath him, he had to phone up Microsoft PR and he made them cry because he was like, if you don't get me these, the Daily Mail will destroy you.
What?
So we couldn't actually review any games because they went off.
Awful.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. I sat outside the editor of the supplements office, and my job was to get cool stuff in for roundups. Everything he was eyeballing. I was like, does that need to go back? Can you bring that in here? And
That's so corrupt.
I did 11 months of it, and I was like, I can't do this.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I cannot do
No
it.
wonder. That's mental.
Because I didn't get to keep any of it. So.
No. That's it. I'm out of here.
What else on this list, or something separate?
I'd quite like to talk about Miitomo. Because I know it's a mobile game, but it was such a big game to come out because it was, Nintendo's move into mobile. Everyone had been super excited, thinking, what are they going to do? Handheld-wise, are we going to get like a Mario game? Or that'd be amazing. And it's like, no, we're going to do Miitomo.
We're going to do like a bodged version of Tomodachi Life.
Yes, exactly. And everyone kind of went, when it first got announced.
I had a day of being absolutely obsessed with
But that's
Miitomo.
the thing. When it launched,
No
That's
longer.
it.
Yeah,
that
was
seemed
it.
to be it. When it came out, everybody on my timeline was like, hey, look at this.
yeah, showing all these weird screenshots and things. But I think the thing that killed Miitomo was the people that used it. It was like
Absolutely.
that, that Twitter experiment when they did the AI bot that was built off other people, and then it became like this crazy machine that, in the same way, the users here ruined it. Because if the people who used it and did it well are ones who kind of almost took the piss slightly. So when you were asked, what's your favourite thing about cats? They'd answer, you can see how big a room is by swinging them, rather than, they're really cute and fluffy. Like, you'd rather know the previous answer than the later one. And people would just answer so seriously, and then someone would answer 10 questions at a time. Then you'd go in, and all you'd have are these really dull answers, and it made the game itself dull.
Well, it was just fundamentally, in a design way, it doesn't work, because what it was, how it works best is when you got a load of friends who are people you like. So if you want serious answers, if you want to know about your friends, you would have that group. Whereas, someone else would have the people who made disgusting pictures using the photo booth feature or something. Like
You and Gav.
Yes. I did one of sticking a friend up me's ass. It was brilliant. So you'd have that group of friends that you wanted to see from. Yeah. But then the game rewards you for adding strangers. So you go, okay, I want to get up to the next rank of friendship or whatever it's called. So I'm a friendship master. So I'd add a load of people, and then it would just dilute my whole timeline because it was full of boring people
true.
I don't know. Like, because you didn't even have to use your real name. So there were all these people. There was like, just Egg Boy. I'm like, who the fuck is Egg Boy? I don't know who this guy is. And he's answering boring things about volcanoes. I don't know.
I had one guy.
That's rubbish.
Yeah, it was rubbish.
There was one guy who he'd changed his Mii's voice because you could go into the settings. So the voice sounded like this. It was terrifying, and all his answers would just be about cake. It didn't matter what the question was.
Right.
His answer would just be cake, and he would answer like 20 questions at a time. So you just have this freaky me going like with all this,
but just saying cake.
Yeah, just going cake. That was terrifying.
Sounds rubbish.
So we'll see what they come out with next.
Well, they've got Animal Crossing and Fire Emblem, which are both free to play. Animal Crossing makes sense. I get that, because the last one felt like they were making fun of free to play games in their paid game. But I don't see how Fire Emblem's going to work. Like, that's a full-fledged strategy game. So is it just going to be Clash of Clans or something that they're making? That would be quite sad.
Not another Clash of Clans clone.
Yeah. Strange business.
Joe.
I'm going to talk about... Oh, let's do my indie game roundup.
Go on then.
Do it. Yes.
Stickbold. I really like Stickbold. You didn't like Stickbold,
I came to the party late. You lot were better than me, and I've got no patience at being frustrated at games.
Fantasy Danish
I will
dodgeball.
literally throw my pad down in disgust and walk away like a huffy child.
It was so good.
Which is what I did.
Stickbold's brilliant. Everyone should play that. Super Hot, the game where it erroneously tells you that time only moves when you do. That's not true. Time moves a little bit when you're not moving in that game. Really annoys me that they lied
Here
about
it is. Joe's attention to detail stickler coming out.
But Super Hot has one of the... I don't chase secrets in games. I have no interest in completing achievements or anything. But Super Hot has some of the most interesting secret design of like a game I've played recently, where you're in these closed arenas, and then you'll realise that like a set of steps just made out of incidental sort of, like there'll be a vent on the wall and a car, and it turns out you can jump up to a roof you didn't know was there. There'll be an extra little bit of level where you've got to work out a puzzle to get to this thing in this like dumb shooting game. It's really clever. So I really like that. And also shooting glass people until their heads explode is brilliant.
You have a lot of unsolved issues.
Yes, and what was the thing that came out in January? Oh, Pony Island. Did either of you play Pony Island?
I saw it, but I didn't play it.
So it looks like, it starts off looking like an endless runner where you play as a pony that has to jump over fences.
I mean, that sounds glorious.
But it turns out to be that you are playing a sort of demonically haunted arcade machine.
That's even
and
better.
Like there's this sort
it just goes weird.
It just gets weirder and weirder until you the game starts corrupting itself, and whatever sort of demon is inside it is changing the game as you play it to try and stop you playing it.
That's fascinating.
I don't think it follows through on its ideas as far as it could have gone, and actually there are two sort of core gameplay elements, which is the pony jumping over stuff, or there's like this sort of hacking mini game. Neither of them are that fun, but the story itself is really compelling, and I went through it. It took me like 6 hours, and you just like blitz through it. And yeah, I just thought it was a really cool idea. And it was one of those games that just came out of nowhere, and everyone's suddenly going, Pony Island. Yeah. It's amazing. And Duskers, which is a roguelike game where you only play as like drones going through derelict spaceships trying to scrap them, but the drones you can't see the world. So the drones have like this very narrow, but it's like playing a game just through the Metal Gear Solid 2 minimap where you've got cones of vision. And you've got so you've got to type commands. You've got to be like, drone 1, go to room 2. Yeah. And you have no real direct control over them. So after you've sent them, the only way of getting them out of there is to send them back again. Right. So you're like typing sort of fake programming language to move these things around. And it's fucking terrifying, because there's aliens that aliens that just walk around these rooms and will destroy your drones in various different ways and make crazy noises. And it's just really clever and scary and weird, and just it's very good. I've played like 4 hours so far. I think it came out quite recently. It's good stuff. So there you go, that's my indie game roundup.
That was amazing.
2016.
I was just gonna say, like, I think there have been a lot of good games that come out in 2016. I'm going to quickly gloss over some because we haven't got time to talk about anything.
Doom's brilliant.
Really, really good reimagining of the obviously original 3D shooter. Hitman, heard really good things about it. So apparently it's really hitting its stride now. It's up to episode 3. 4 is coming out in a couple of weeks.
4's coming out soon,
I think it's a really interesting way of releasing the game as well, and kind of these episodes.
I think it's fully justified. Yeah. Everyone criticised the way that game works, but the fact that people are still playing Hitman months after release, and and rinsing it. Like I got a WhatsApp group of friends who play it, and they are obsessed with that game.
Right.
Like every time a mission comes out, they go nuts, and every time one of those elusive targets comes out, where it's like you have 48 hours to kill this one person, and we won't tell you how. They just go crazy. I think it's brilliant.
It's such a smart idea because in the same way that, you know, when you're watching a TV series and you have to wait a week for the next episode and you're there going, so you get, but if you were, sometimes the Netflix approach means that you feel quite beleaguered almost halfway through a series. That kind of, by rationing it, you get so into every level, and the joy of Hitman is going back and replaying. It means that you can see all the details so much more than if they'd released it all at once. It's kind of like, it makes so much sense.
Yeah. I'd love to see other games take that on. I can't think what, but I would like it.
Suddenly we'll have episodic games.
Splinter Cell would be a great episodic game. I know it's another stealth game, but like the idea of being given a space and then going, do what you can in this area, because the last game
not quite as open as that, though, is it?
Well, so the Blacklist had sort of moved into this, like, you've got a big box, work your way through it. And I think that was really cool. Like, and actually, the story is what put me off in that game. I'd prefer it to be a more potted, like, here's the thing, go here, go here. Yeah, it's good.
I just really like as well that you can kill someone with a toilet.
That's fun. Very fun.
Other good stuff, Lego Star Wars. Supposed to be very, very good.
I've not played that yet.
Best Lego game
since Lego Marvel.
Ages.
Didn't that come out? It was like last Monday or something.
Fairly recently.
Yeah.
Stuff that I wanted to be good, but I didn't like. Far Cry Primal.
That's my biggest disappointment of the year.
Because I love Far Cry. Like, listeners to the podcast would have heard me blah, blah, blah about Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 4 and Blood. Like, I love them all to bits. And I played them, like, one few games that I literally went and did everything I possibly could in those worlds. Because I love being in there. But Primal,
it's just so dull. And I think there's a core of a really cool idea there, but they couldn't break away from their own format enough to make it good. Like, there were elements where it was like, oh, it's sort of a survival game, and then it just goes, nah, just have like...
They didn't commit enough to one aspect of it.
And there are these dream sequences, which I think are the best bits of the game, that make me just go, well, why wasn't this it? Why didn't you make, like, Caveman Blood Dragon, where it's mad gods and, like, there's a bit where you blow up the moon with a bow and arrow. It's incredible.
I didn't get that.
It was so good. And,
Wow, so you actually quit, like, Far Cry? Wow.
It's like, well, I didn't finish 2. I finished every other Far Cry. I know everybody says 2 is really, really good.
It's amazing.
Didn't click with me at all.
I loved it. Malaria.
Which I'm
Malaria as a game mechanic. Powerful.
Mirror's Edge Catalyst.
I'm so excited for this one because I absolutely loved the original. Loved. And actually, I know people really bashed the follow-up Mirror's Edge Catalyst. I still quite liked it.
But that's the problem. Is it was another game where you went, yeah, this is really cool and it would be great if they did this, but they didn't. Like, it's so strange that they made a game to fix all the problems of the original and the criticisms of it are exactly the same as the original.
Well, I think the issue was kind of the open worldness of it. Like, the part of the reason why the first one I thought was so good was because you had this kind of set run and it was kind of trying to work your way through the world, and the best way of doing it whereas in the second game there were so many different ways of doing it, you could almost get quite lost and not necessarily know where you were going. It felt too open.
The problem is I don't think that it was, I think it's not open enough so that when you get lost, the only way of getting around that is to go back on yourself.
Find the path. Rather than like, well, actually I'm just going to go up here.
So there might be 3 paths. But then if you accidentally take a 4th one that just takes you down the wrong area, it's not like GTA where you can go, okay, well, I'm just going to go up.
Take a left on that corner.
I can just follow the GPS. This just goes, no, go back now.
That's the thing I loved about the original Crackdown, is that I leveled up completely with the sort of super jump or whatever it's called. And that's how I got about the city. It was just like, well, I know I've got to go there. I'm just going to jump from building to building like the Incredible Hulk. And I hope that's very much the case in the new Crackdown. But I don't know if that really kind of happened with Mirror's Edge.
But I think what Mirror's Edge Catalyst did really well is, it built off the comic series that, had been released before, and the story and the kind of the lore around it. The city feels very real, the City of Glass. There's this real sense of like dystopian oppression, and I love the character development. Like, each of the characters feels like they have a place in the world. And
did you finish the story?
I've not yet finished it. I'm about like 75% through. So have you finished it?
No.
Okay.
Because I did like 3 hours from the start of the game for our preview that we did, and then I just haven't played past that again because I played a bit more and was like, you know what, I just don't feel this.
That is,
which is
we're
really
fortunate
sad.
in our roles, but I did the opening 2 hours of Killzone on when PS4 came out about 4 times. And that just destroyed the game. It's like, I can't play these opening bits anymore.
Yeah.
Like when it actually comes around to playing, finishing it.
But when that preview, I liked a huge amount of it. My preview was really glowing, and I was sad to see that it came out the way it did. Because it basically, the preview was kind of, this is really cool if it keeps building on this, but it doesn't. But the story was the thing that I was really worried about. I thought, I thought it looked terrible. I hated Faith's characterization. I thought like those guys weren't much fun, and I couldn't see the space for them to get better.
Oh, that's interesting. I know. I really
love
enjoyed it.
The society and the world they're building, like the little hints at like horrible stuff happening outside the city. I love all that.
Yeah.
But the characters I wasn't interested in. But if they get better, then I'd be interested.
No, maybe it's just because the longer you play, the longer you invest in a certain character and perspective. But I really adored Faith from the first game, so carrying over and seeing her.
I liked her a lot more in the first game than what I've experienced so far. But then I haven't played that much. So
she can be slightly petulant, but that's something that I really like about her. I like characters that are flawed and kind of, it makes her feel more real and rounded. She's just spent 2 years in juvie. Like, she's going to come out and be like, I'm ready to run, like, in this kind of, it makes sense. Cool.
I'm going to finish talking about games with probably an opinion that I'm going to be hated for.
Interesting.
Oh.
And I didn't particularly like Uncharted 4.
You haven't finished it though. Did you finish it?
Yes.
Oh, you're incorrect then.
That was an absolute chore.
What?
Oh no.
I totally disagree.
Don't say this.
Fair enough, but I know. Like,
but Alysia hasn't finished, so we can't talk about it.
I won't tell you specific. So let me just provide a bit more detail to it because I absolutely loved it up until about 2/3 of the way through.
Okay.
How far are you in? So do you remember what chapter you're at?
I've literally not. I'm about to start.
Oh.
So,
okay.
I have it
let's
at
say
home.
like the third act. My God, it goes on for a long time.
There are some pacing issues in the third act, but then I think the end makes up for it. I love those last couple of bits.
Oh, well, I'd love to have that discussion outside of this because
yes.
I didn't feel the payoff was as big or as exciting as I wanted it to be.
That's interesting.
Really?
Yes.
I don't get that.
But I
don't get it.
I feel like that's a very Nathan Drake thing. Like in all of the games, I feel like there has been a point where there's a pacing issue. So in Uncharted 3, when you're walking through the desert.
Uncharted 3 was really bad.
Yeah.
Like the ship scrapyard thingy bit, man, that went on for ages.
You just go for on and on and on and on. Like the desert bit where he's going through for forever and ever and ever. He's looking for water, and then you go into the town, and he's still really hot. But then suddenly, after 2 days of no water, he springs into action, starts throwing grenades and like annihilating half the population.
I'm fine with that. I don't mind that it's like dumb action, but like I totally get what you mean that. This stuff takes.
But you have just done like 15 minutes, and the whole point of it, the whole reason they made that so long was to, so you feel like you're living this kind of ordeal with him. But then he's just fine at the end anyway, so it makes that whole plodding, slow pace feel very pointless.
Yeah.
In the second game there were similar issues, and in the first game, like it's just a feature, isn't it, of them?
Well, technically, it's one of the most impressive games I've ever seen.
It's unbelievable.
It's like, oh my God.
I think I already talked about this, but there's a bit where you see a backdrop and like it's just come out of a cutscene. It does a really nice thing with coming seamlessly out of cutscenes. Yeah. And I genuinely just stood there for ages because I thought the cutscene was still going on. Like I didn't know it was gameplay. It just looks so good.
Cool. The amount that they've kind of mixed up with dialogue and just keeping, like, if you die and you replay, they try and keep it fresh each time. It's like the polish is like, holy. Do
you remember when GTA 5 did that for the first time, where the mission would have different dialogue the second time? Yeah. Perfect. What a great idea. Yeah. I can't believe everything doesn't do that now.
But I've finished it, and I'm struggling to remember anything that I particularly really enjoyed about the game, apart from the E3 demo that they showed, not this year, but last year. that for me was the highlight of
Which
the game.
section was that?
The bit with escaping from the armoured car.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
yeah,
the
yeah.
extended bit when he's on the back going through the mud.
That's fantastic.
That was amazing. Nothing else lived up to that, I don't think.
So story-wise, how does it stack up against the other three?
This is the first one I've played in its entirety, so I couldn't say. I really liked it.
The thing is, I adored 2 because
Yes. Oh,
at the
2's the
time that was
best.
doing stuff that I'd never seen
Yeah.
before. This is it's doing the same but slightly prettier.
Yeah.
And honestly, there were moments in that game that you were like, oh, "Fucking hell, that looks incredible."
Yeah.
But I thought the story was going to go in a slightly different direction. I felt like it copped out a couple of times. But again, I can't really talk about specifics. So
No.
Do you think the epilogue,
yes.
what do you feel good about that? Because I think it leaves the series in a really, really
Wait,
interesting and
have you played the
exciting
epilogue?
place.
Yeah, I've finished it. Yes, done everything.
Oh, right. Cool.
We can't talk about that.
No.
Right.
I'm not talking about it specifically, but I think that leaves the series in a place where it, like, the next thing that it could do could be super exciting.
I don't think we should talk about it at all.
No, all right.
Because Alysia hasn't started playing it yet, and
I'm being vague as
So
hell.
now,
No, I know,
that could
but
be
like-
a continuation to the series.
Well-
Interesting.
Well, no, but that's
why I'm not talking about it.
the point. You don't know how
Beard
or
scratch,
why.
beard scratch, beard
It's so cool.
But we will talk about it.
It's great.
In terms of other disappointments, let's look at movies. It's not a disappointment. It's just I appreciate that I'm in the minority, and the other reason why I think it was like that. If you're going to sit down and play it, try and play it in a condensed sitting.
As quickly as possible.
Oh, well, that's what I've done with all of that. I've literally blitzed. So when I got this brand new PlayStation, the Uncharted one for the office, I hadn't played any Uncharteds, and I thought that it would be a disrespect to you, if I, as a massive Uncharted fan, for me to have it on my desk with Nathan Drake staring at me every day and to not have played. So I got the Uncharted collection and I played all 3.
Yeah.
You know when I had tonsillitis?
Yeah.
So basically in the space of 2 weeks.
You know, I had tonsillitis. That was a lie.
That was it.
playing
That was
Uncharted.
all a ruse. But,
Actually, I'm still ill. I haven't finished Uncharted 3 yet. It's like, oh my god, I thought I'd finished
Really
it by
paced
now.
badly.
stuck on that, but I'm just still in that desert.
This
flooding through.
tonsillitis caused real pacing issues.
But it was great, like playing them all back to back. And so now this is why I'm itching to get onto number 4 and see where it's going. But
I have no doubt that you'll have a good time with it. It's just you just be prepared to slog through a few sections.
cool. No, that's fine. I can deal with some slog.
Yeah.
Cool.
But anyway,
Movies.
Disappointing movies.
Well, I haven't
but
seen this, but I am a big Batman fan, and the fact that I didn't go and see Batman vs Superman when I had a free ticket.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that's-
okay,
I'd heard
that's
such
damning.
bad things from Krupa and Tilly and Gav that I was just like, I'm going to do something nice with my evening instead.
Yeah. I think this has been a weird year of, like, it feels like this is the turning point for superhero stuff.
yeah.
Like, not
Very
least,
true.
I mean, this is quite
Well,
a
Marvel's still ploughing on, and
Yeah.
Captain America's still the biggest movie of the year in terms of earnings.
It was quite a trite observation, but I think this is the point where, like, X-Men and Batman vs Superman have proved, like, that real darkness and grittiness isn't necessarily what people want. And Deadpool has proved that something completely different can work just as well.
So I only watched Deadpool this week, and I really enjoyed it.
I think Deadpool is absolutely
really
fantastic.
Deadpool is good.
Right? Okay. Would you care to elaborate? It was everything I wanted and more from a superhero movie.
It was.
Whereas I'm so bored of superhero movies.
Yeah. Oh no. I'm very bored of superhero movies. I normally prefer DC over Marvel because I like the grit and the dark and the kind of. I like the gritty Strepsil needing voice of Batman and I really liked Deadpool for being so funny. I thought that the opening credits scene was utterly
amazing.
genius. I think that's the best opening credits I've ever seen for a movie, where it completely takes the piss out of all setup and production, because that's the thing, we knew how difficult this movie was to produce. It took so long, it really had to be fought for. I think my issue with it was kind of in the second half. First half amazing. Lots of character development, amazing kind of storyline, really taking the piss out of superhero movies. The second half, it just becomes your stereotypical kind of...
I agree, it loses steam.
It really loses steam. The character development, suddenly the baddie, we're like, oh, really? Like in the plot line, he's just a guy who presses a button and then rides a motorbike, and then at the end gets like shot in the head. Like there's really like, whereas at the beginning he seems really interesting. The girl, like in the comics, the love interest is like she's an amazing superhero in her own right. We saw none of that introduced in the like. So, but yeah, in the beginning she was set up as like really fascinating and cool, and you kind of rooted for their relationship. So, yeah, I think if the second half had been stronger, it would have been one of my favourite films of this year. As it was, it got like a solid like 3.5.
Well, I think despite that ending being what it is, from a you look at that ending and you go, he does this, he does this, he does this, they win the day, that's it. But you still have Ryan Reynolds telling hilarious jokes during that time. Like, it's not like they just turn off Deadpool at that point. I still found it much more fun. So I enjoyed and criticised Deadpool in exactly the same way as I did Ant-Man. I think both of them are brilliant little small-scale, slightly witty, not slightly wittier, much wittier takes on Marvel properties that in the second half fall into themselves with like, okay, we need a big action sequence now, which I don't think they do.
No.
Ant-Man, though, does stop being funny when he starts fighting the bad guy in the kind of big final climactic thing. I don't think Deadpool does, and that's what elevated it for me.
Very true.
Like in the final scene when he gets like stabbed in the head. And it's just
and the unicorn.
And all that kind of stuff is just brilliant.
That was really funny.
It's really well done.
That was funny.
And I think it like bodes really well for what could come next. Like not just Deadpool 2, which I am now completely excited for. Not least because like I was really into Deadpool as a teenager. I thought he was amazing. And then as I grew up, I was like, actually, he's a bit embarrassing. Like the comic humor got really stupid and like very, even in a comic that completely references itself the whole time, got really self-referential.
Right.
And then this felt very fresh. Like, firstly, Deadpool is not as disgusting a man in the comics, so seeing him as a sort of R-rated guy is really interesting. I think it just brings it up a notch. But I think like who knows what they could do with all these movies now. Like Black Panther is going to be one thing that's going to be really interesting. But then like I don't even like they've got Captain Marvel? I can't remember what she's called.
I think it's Captain Marvel, isn't it?
Like they've got that coming.
Cooper is our Marvel
superhero
kind of expert.
But they've got that coming next, and who knows what kind of tone that's going to have. That could be anything.
I wonder whether, lots of people have been calling for Deadpool to be introduced into other Marvel franchises, but like this film felt so separate, even though it was a part of that world and we went to Xavier's school. And there was that really
I really like that bit.
So I loved that bit. I loved that bit, and I loved the joke where he was like,
maybe the studio
it's so
can
funny,
only
there's
afford
only two of you. Maybe the studio can only afford two. And I thought that was hilarious.
And like, I don't know the name of the female character, but all the
Negasonic
Teenage Warhead.
But like, sort of like the Sinead O'Connor jokes, or like the sort of tweeting
really
before
funny.
she fight, all that kind of stuff.
But will that? My question is, will that be lost if we inject Deadpool into, say, X-Men with all the traditional characters that we know? And I think because,
to an extent, but then the history of the comics is such that when Deadpool is injected into that stuff, he's there as very odd comic relief. And if you're going to an X-Men film that happens to have Deadpool in it, that's probably what you want. Like, I don't think you want to go into an X-Men film and go, it's the comedy movie, because it's still about like racism and Patrick Stewart being sad, and that's what you want. Like, which unfortunately they're not doing very well anymore.
The thing I find amazing about it is that relatively Deadpool is a tiny character in the Marvel universe, and yet it's grossed almost as much as Batman vs Superman, which is DC's two biggest hitters in a film together.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating.
How on earth are they going to get that back?
What? Oh, Batman and Superman
and Justice League, all that kind of stuff.
I think
the fact that they signed up Zack Snyder for so much, it's like, why did you do that?
He keeps making weird, like he did 300 well, and that's because 300 was already dark and slightly racist.
I went back and watched that, and it's not a great film.
It doesn't hold up.
It won't have aged well.
No.
Yeah, I've not seen it since it came out.
Like the same with, I know it wasn't him, but it's the same with Sin City. Sin City does not hold up, and it seemed so stylistic and amazing at the time, but now it's just like. But then he made Watchmen, which was like okay.
I really liked Watchmen.
But it wasn't like.
It's okay.
I really liked it.
It was such a faithful adaptation. Like he just used the comic book, barring the end.
Kind of.
Like there was elements of it where you're just like, well, you've not directed this. You're just a man who's gone put that picture in a movie. That's it. But
that's how it actually happened.
But now that he's been given stuff that's like he has to decide on.
Yeah.
who knew it was going to be shit? Like, it's crazy. Like, I don't understand why he's being regarded the way he is.
Apparently the extended cut is better, so I'm waiting for that to come out.
Are you really going to watch the longer version of that film?
I am, of course I am. I'm not going to watch it. But, you know, as a parent, cinema time is premium. And I don't want to waste it on a film that
Very true.
I can't be bothered with.
That's absolutely fair.
The last film I did see at the cinema was Zootopia, or Zootropolis.
I've not seen that.
I still really want to see
good.
it. Still not seen
It's
it.
really good.
Yeah,
I've
I've heard it's amazing.
Is that the same? So
It's really good.
How? Okay.
It's not amazing.
Okay.
is that the same studio that did Big Hero 6?
Love Big Hero 6.
I thought it was
Blah,
great.
La, 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 la.
Do you know, I can't remember how they split up, because, you know, they always say from the people that bought you Frozen, and actually it's just one person, it's the person that carried it across. I can't remember his name.
How does it stack up against, you know, I feel like recently animated movies have been really strong. You know, we've had like Inside Out.
Yep.
We've had, well, it's not so recent now, but bloody love Tangled. Like all those. How much does it stack up against those?
Well, again, as a parent, I've watched my fair share of animated films, and it was like there was something that I could really enjoy because the humour was pitched kind of up there for adults. But as a kids' film, it worked really, really well. And, you know, like, I guess it's the same as every other Disney movie. There's tragedy and people die and all that kind of stuff. But the main
Mufasa
two
moment.
characters, the way they work together, it's just really, really fun. And it's clever. Like, the world they've built.
That's what I
is
keep hearing is that it's,
amazing.
and that's what interests me about its connection with Big Hero 6, because San Francisco or whatever it was called was such a heady
So
thing.
cool.
It was just brilliant to look at that place.
I want to go on holiday to San Francisco.
It's amazing. Like,
But
it's
it's,
such a cool
again,
idea.
watch it, but, like, you know, where you've got a city where elephants live alongside mice or whatever, and that city has to work in different ways for different sizes. Like, it's so clever.
That's like game design. That element of going, how could this place fit
Yeah.
together, and how could we move through
And
it?
they do a really good job of portraying that, and also, you know, having polar bears living alongside camels. How do you do that? And anyway, watch it. It's well worth it.
That's cool.
And very apt politically in the divisive landscape that we've got. Teaching kids young. There we go.
Teach them young.
No, teach them young unity.
Yes, young unity.
Young
that sounds like
unity.
a
Be afraid
cool.
of foxes.
To be afraid of.
That sounds like the next superhero hit. Young unity.
Speaking of adaptations of
Yeah.
classic kind of kids movies, have either
10 Cloverfield Lane.
Did either of you guys see The Jungle Book?
I had a ticket, but I was on holiday, so I didn't get to see
Didn't
it.
go see it.
Also, like, my daughter gets very scared at films, and
yeah,
that
she'd have
looked
been-
like quite a intense film.
Yeah, so Shere Khan he's scary.
Yeah.
Like there's this, I don't really want to, no spoilers, but there's this bit where he walks up to the wolf pack and he's being very kind of like calm, and he doesn't do anything. He just walks and he's just talking, but the menace just oozes off of him, and it's amazing voice acting by Idris Elba. And the cast they had of voice actors is just incredible, and it looks beautiful. It's such a visually amazing movie. The bit with Scarlett Johansson as the snake is so wonderfully done. I think
I really want to see it.
it is really, really good. I definitely recommend it.
It was something I was so uninterested in as well, like, until people started talking about it. Like, The Jungle Book was my favourite movie as like a 5-year-old. Apparently I watched it on repeat the whole time, which might account for many of my problems. Just obsessed with animals. But like, I just didn't care about this, and then people started saying amazing stuff, and I don't know where it came from. Considering they've got another Jungle Book movie next year as well.
That's fascinating. The fact that they had to, like, wasn't it meant to come out this year, but they had to delay it because they were we can't have two.
But their Shere Khan is Benedict Cumberbatch, which just seems like a better choice to me.
Yeah, I mean, he did an incredible job as Smaug, so to see him as the
Excited for
tiger.
that.
The only thing with Jungle Book that is the boy who played Mowgli looked so much like, you'll adore him if you loved the original Disney movie, because it's literally just like they put him in real life. It's amazing, and he's doing a job that most adult actors would struggle with so much, because the whole thing is basically green screen, and like he's not seeing any of this amazing world that we're seeing. For like a 10-year-old boy, or however old he is, incredible work. But it does mean his acting, there are points where you just really feel like he's just saying the lines and going through the motions, and that can pull you out.
Give the kid a break.
I know, so that's why I was saying, like,
harsh critic.
Fair play to him, but also
he's just a kid.
Just be better.
In his underwear in front of millions of people. Give it, just let him off.
With a mop on his head.
With a mop on his head.
That's the kind of environment I would shine in, I think.
You reckon? In your underwear in front of millions?
Exactly, yes. Anything else? Like 10 Cloverfield Lane, I loved the beginning of it. I didn't like the end of it.
Yeah, it was basically the same. I thought, like, apart from anything else, I can't talk about the end.
No. Have you seen it?
No, I've not seen the first one either.
Let me put it this way, it's the wrong title.
Yeah.
It should not be called that.
Yeah.
It really bothers me that it's called that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't really have to have seen the first one.
Oh, okay.
No, not at all. That is completely separate.
So did they literally just call it 10 Cloverfield Lane, so they had Cloverfield in the name?
It was. I think it was originally
sequel.
called The Cellar.
I think it was a different film.
Yeah. And it links. If you care about the original, like, there are elements where you go, oh, that's clever, and maybe they're creating a universe or something. But
is it still found footage?
No. It's a proper, super tense, twisty thriller, and I think the core cast are brilliant.
Yeah.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead is brilliant, and I can't understand why she's not in more stuff. I thought she's amazing in this and Scott Pilgrim, which are the only two things I can ever think of her being in. That other guy with the beard, don't know his name, and John Goodman was
He's great.
Fantastic,
like sinister and.
Well, it's such a weird performance from him. I've never seen John Goodman switch from big John Goodman, scary man, from what's that Coen Brothers film where he's the devil?
Oh yeah.
Barton Fink.
Well, you know how bad I am at keyword countdown, so don't even get me on that.
We should do a keyword countdown of me and Alex, because I think we are like...
I'm just terrible.
Oh, I'm awful.
Even the one that I knew, I gave it to Joe, which is Basic Instinct.
That was good stuff.
I got that with Love Actually.
I steal.
Against Joe. What
I
is
always
it
steal.
with Joe?
I just need to keep my mouth shut in future. Anyway.
But sorry, so he's the big scary man from Barton Fink, at the same time as being like this quite fey... Yeah. Like, he falls into like this sort of creepy, quiet man, which I don't think I've seen him do before, really.
It's definitely worth a watch.
It's brilliant.
And like the fact that it came out like 2 months after it was announced as well was pretty amazing.
That's cool. The only other thing that's not on this that I have watched and really enjoyed was The Witch. Did either of you see that?
I did see that. So I saw it. We had a screening of it in San Francisco. And it's completely the fault of the cinema, not the film.
Oh, right.
There was a lot of light bleed in the cinema.
Oh, that's not good.
It's a cinema where you can drink there, so you're constantly being interrupted by waiters coming up and taking drinks. And that is a film that really relies heavily on the sound, and it's all kind of old English, the way they. Half the time I was like, I can't understand a word.
Yeah. A lot of it is just working it out through context. It's like because they're speaking essentially a different language at times.
Yeah, and. At the time, I think Chris had seen it, or a couple of people had seen it, and they were like, it's amazing. And I was like, I don't get it. But I think that was largely the fault of the cinema. Which the irony is, it was a director Q&A screening. So he was there.
That sucks.
Can you imagine if you were seeing your work basically be butchered by the setting?
He seemed to be happy. And I know a lot of the other people that I saw it with said it's okay. But interestingly, I went with a couple of the Aussie guys. They felt the same as me. I'm pretty sure most of the Americans couldn't understand a word that Finchy was saying. So.
Yeah. Oh, I forget that it's Finchy. Yes. I think it's like just psychedelic or you would like not quite psychedelic. Like it is like a really bad trip sometimes, and just interesting to see those people and that place.
Like the beginning bit was again as a parent was.
Oh Christ!
Horrifying. Properly, like to the point where I was like, I might just walk out of this. I don't need to see it.
It is really unpleasant.
But then, and I think I've said that on the podcast before, I don't feel it reach those heights afterwards.
No, but I'm not sure whether it wanted to. I think a lot of it was about giving you that, like, here's the high point of like real horror, and then kept you waiting for something awful to happen again.
Tension.
Yeah, and like. I just think it was really well put together, and the sheer isolation of that place captures how mad it was for people to go.
I'd be interested to see what I thought if I watched it again at home in a dark room where I can actually hear what the heck is going on. So.
Maybe with headphones in. That always makes things scarier.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Also, it feels a lot like A Field in England, which is another horror film, like with really sort of strange, druggy feeling to it. Like you're watching it through a lens. Like there's something really odd going on that you can't quite perceive. I just really like that, being left completely uncertain. It's great. Really good.
But I remember you saying a while back, Alex, that being a father does affect how you watch certain storylines.
Everything?
Yeah. And like I remember we were talking about in relation to Game of Thrones.
Yes.
And obviously this year had an incredible series of Game of Thrones. But you said previously that you'd almost been done with it. You were out because of your kids.
Obviously, because what happened, again, trying to talk without spoilers, what happens in whatever episode it was, I can't remember, but there is a bad thing that happens to a child. There's a bad thing that happens to a child in this season as well. Episode 1, I think it is.
Yes.
Ramsay
yes,
Bolton.
I'd forgotten about that.
Man is an absolute monster.
Yeah.
And similarly then, I was like, if you're going to go there and that's all you're going to do, then I'm not interested. But I'm pleased I stuck with it because it was an amazing season. Probably the highlight of my year so far.
Oh, wow.
Especially episode 9, which was some of the best television I have seen ever.
I agree.
And I hate the fact that you're not going to watch it.
I'm finally getting to the point where I probably will. It's like it's so many hours of work.
I know it is. And again, you're going to have to endure
go
some
through all
rubbish.
And all the stuff that I already know. This is the problem. It's like,
I know.
I can't just jump in because there's enough differences that it won't make sense.
But when did that start happening? Like
I'm gonna do
season 3?
They started making small changes season 2. Season 3 is where big stuff started happening.
Yeah.
I mean, season 1 is amazing. When you read the book and it's like word for word, there are whole sections.
Well, that's why I stopped.
That are like
what's the point in this? I didn't need it.
I
didn't get anything out of seeing the thing that I already knew was going to happen.
Really? I find it, like, so for instance, with the Harry Potter books, I really loved watching the Harry Potter films, even though you know exactly what's going to happen because it's seeing that reimagining.
You were in Harry Potter?
Yeah, obviously, I loved seeing myself on the screen.
Everything comes back to that.
Every episode.
Do you know that I now have my own Wikia page on Harry Potter?
Well, did you set it up yourself?
Yeah.
I can set up a Wikipedia page for myself. That's not a problem.
I think someone from the podcast must have said, because post-podcast when it came out, I was in it. And now it says like, Alysia Judge is a British actress who appeared in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. And now I'm like, Mum, the internet says I'm an actress. Look, it must be real.
Have you got an IMDb page?
Yeah, and I've got an IMDb page
I've got
now
an IMDb
well.
page. Come on.
Why have you got an IMDb?
I was a talking head on a TV program once.
What?
Cool.
Yeah.
You got an
That's
IMDb
cool.
page for that?
Apparently so.
Well, I was on
Joe
Games
Scrabbles.
It
Master.
says
as
Joe Scrabbles as
himself.
himself. Yeah.
I was on Games Master in 1990 or whenever it was.
Get involved. You can
I
put
saw that
yourself
clip
on there.
actually.
Did you do it yourself?
No, I didn't. Someone did it for me, but I think it was probably the production company. But if you've got an IMDb Pro account, which I think Tilly does, you're allowed to.
I'm not going to create an
Games
IMDb.
Master.
I'm not doing that.
Can't be the only one. Me, Gav, Alysia, probably Krupa. He's been doing things.
Been touted around.
What does he do?
Yeah. But you know, I do think that there's a certain amount of enjoyment that can be had from watching a visual adaptation of a series that you know and love and thinking, it's that whole thing of, we always said that, you know, writing is totalitarian, reading is a democracy, in that the author has a really set view of how things are in their head, and then you read it and you imagine, and suddenly you have. And I think there's another layer of that with a film that, you know, you have.
Well,
this
it goes
set
back
view
to
in your head.
totalitarianism.
Yeah, exactly. It goes back to totalitarianism in your own, and then suddenly someone else comes up with a view that's shared very democratically across a very, very wide audience, and it introduces it to people who perhaps might not have read the book. And I just think that kind of layering of adaptation is really, really interesting.
See, I think my key enjoyment, this is going way off topic, but my key enjoyment of the books is like the political nature of them. Like, I love the fact that you can have these long bits where people are creating machinations that might just never happen. You just have these people forming plans just in case something else happens. And I really like how all of this links in, and then those action moments explode. Like, you know, the thing that happens to Ned, which I guess, you know, like that in the books, it takes so long to get there that when it happens, it is the most shocking possible thing.
I'd say that's the same. No, I'd say that's the same in the TV series.
But the TV series has less time for you to get
I mean,
I think
like the fact that it all happens in season 1.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it happens like at the end of season 1 when you're like 9 hours in. So you've had 9 hours of falling in love with this character. When it happened, I remember I was so shocked.
And also, like, very few TV shows have the balls to go there.
Of course.
And the fact that it did that, I was like, oh shit!
Like you're absolutely right. Like the pace of that works, but there's something about like 600 pages versus 9 hours.
But that's the thing I found. Oh man, I started to read the book, and I was like, this is just.
Oh, I love it. It's so great.
Tedious.
And those elements, that political intrigue, that hundreds of characters turning up. You have to lose that for a TV series because it would make no sense at all.
There are still so many characters that I'm like, oh, who is that again?
Right.
And just like constantly side referencing,
or their characters in the TV series that we saw in season 2, and for instance, they've just shown up again in season 6. And I'm looking at, like, there was a reveal of one character in this series that we haven't seen since the Red Wedding, and I was like. The way they reintroduced them was like this really epic shot. I literally just turned to my house. I was like, "Who's that? Like, are we meant to know who that is?" Like, and it was a really important reason to know who they were.
But see, that is my. Most TV shows have a what happened previously.
Yeah,
Game of Thrones doesn't do that.
No, I know.
And so I need to kind of like, hang on a minute. I need to recap what's happened.
It's so weird that they don't have that. Why don't they have that?
Just for fun.
But I think, I find the 2-minute intro, as much as I love it, I find that a little bit self-indulgent.
Oh, no.
Because I watch it on digital, I don't watch it live. First thing I do, skip 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Off it goes. I love the theme tune. I don't need to watch it in front of every single episode now.
See,
there's a reason the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air cut its theme tune by a minute after the first series.
Did they do that?
They did.
No, and that's the theme tune.
Exactly. It's brilliant.
Other stuff, strong stuff. Walking Dead was really, really good.
I also love
apart
the
from
series
the season finale. I know I didn't particularly like that.
Alex, you didn't like it?
No.
I thought it was amazing. That end scene, like, I'm still on tenterhooks because also it's
exactly. That's why mid-season finale,
no.
Yes. End of season finale, no.
No, but
that's it. No, I've said the rules are there.
No, I think that they got a lot of stick for that. They got an awful lot of stick, being like, "Oh, this is just a really cheap trick, a cheap ploy to like keep us tied over."
Correct.
I don't think it was. I think it makes absolute total sense in the arc that they did throughout the series for it to end at that point, and then it means that the next series begins. You know how normally when a new series begins, you've already had the really like dramatic bit in the last episode of the previous one. So the first episode is kind of like everyone's like dealing with the fallout, and there's just this kind of like, it's a bit slower as you're drawn back in. It means that we're going to go bam straight into something at the beginning of the first series, and like you hit the ground running, which I think sets it up really well.
It depends how they play that episode. Like Negan needs to be properly badass in that.
Yeah, but I think just from that short scene that he did in that end bit, like we had such a build up to him as a character. And I can't remember the name of the actor. He's the guy from Supernatural. But he was so good and so menacing, and so I think he's going to be such a good introduction.
The build up
to
to it, where they kept on driving, and there's like that way is blocked, that way is blocked.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god, like it feels like they are properly running out of options.
Yeah, no,
it's great.
It was incredibly well done and well paced. And
I was going. Are you bothered or not?
I don't watch it.
Who do you think's been battered in the head?
Oh no, but isn't that perhaps that's a spoiler for our listeners?
Oh, okay. Well,
battered in the head because they had a really heavy night
yes.
So much vodka.
Well, we don't know.
No, we don't know.
So I don't think it's that much of a spoiler.
So I mean, not talking about it spoiler-wise. Obviously, if you've read the comics,
don't say anything.
So if you've read the comics, yeah, and that's what was so amazing about it. The cinematography of it was amazing, because in the comics, it's like there's windows where they had a certain thing of the camera angles, and the camera angles was going from face to face from the point of view of a thing. Yeah, being so cryptic here, but in the comics, it's exactly the same shot. It goes from so they basically recreated the comic book panes on that, and that was so like it's almost an exact rip. So going back to what we were saying about Game of Thrones, I love that when it's so faithful and you see something blown up and given colour and edges. And
so that's happened in the comics.
Yeah, it's happened in the comics. We know who it is.
The consequences of a scene.
But there was a thing
deliberately.
But they could go completely off piste, because there was.
I hope they do.
With that particular character has already had something quite major happen to them earlier in the series that didn't happen in the comics that I think could potentially mean that they're safe. But then they might not be. It's this. I think I've just gushed.
Well, this is fascinating. I don't know what's going on.
Why do you not watch Walking Dead?
I just don't give a shit about zombies. I just can't care less. It's amazing. I don't understand it. It's such a weird cultural phenomenon.
But I don't particularly. I
know The Walking Dead's not about zombies. I know. Exactly. I never watched the first series, and by the time
it's
everyone
always
else
the other
just
human beings that are the real arseholes.
Yeah,
but that's...
like the Walking Dead games, I loved, and that's because I didn't need to know anything about it, and I went in and I played it through. And I'm like, that's cool. Never played season 2 because what was that?
No, I played season 1, didn't play season 2.
But yeah, like it's something that sounds great. I just never cared enough.
Yep.
But I think that's what the Walking Dead comics and TV series do really well, that the zombies are a menace and they are a threat, but the longer time goes on, almost the zombies don't become as powerful because obviously they're rotting corpses, so that, it comes to a point. But the humans do become, and there's this interesting kind of like weight shift balance between these two massive dangers that are in their own way, and then even like people within the group. There's so many dynamics, and you constantly just feel this struggle for survival, and it's played out so well.
Well, it's the thing of that, like they use the zombies almost as the wall that keeps everyone in the prison together.
That's a really good analogy.
It's almost like it's part of the background.
Quite literally in one season.
Well, yes. That was good.
Anything else TV-wise? Daredevil season 2. I think we were in agreement. Really liked it, but again, I felt like the final couple of episodes lost.
In retrospect, I feel quite bad about it, to be honest. Like, I realised that actually the point at which I stopped truly caring about it was the point at which they just stuck the Punisher somewhere else. Yeah. And you're like, he's the whole driving force behind this series. Like, I don't understand what they were doing.
Yeah.
I thought they completely butchered Wilson Fisk. I think he was incredible in the first series, and whoever wrote, I don't know if it was the same writers, but whatever they did to him this series just does away with all their hard work. In the first series, he's like borderline autistic, like has major social problems, has an amazing backstory, and it feels like his villainous nature is sort of a pragmatic decision to be a better person somehow. In this one, he's just a big bad man in a prison. And you just look at it and go, what have you done? It makes no sense.
There are moments of
there's brilliant stuff,
really, really good,
and of course they do their one incredible fight scene again, and that scene is you don't see stuff like that in TV. Like,
well, I'll tell you what, though, you want to watch that Game of Thrones episode?
Yes,
episode 9. That's a hell of a scene.
So yeah, I think I've been left way less interested in the Netflix Marvel project than I was beforehand. Like,
I'm interested to see what the Punisher breakout.
Punisher could be interesting because I thought he was great. Luke Cage, I could not care less about Luke Cage. I think he was terrible in Jessica Jones. I think that actor is not great. The two things I've seen him in are that and Halo 5, neither of which are a good performance. Iron Fist, maybe, if it's weird enough, might be fun, like because that has the potential to be really, really strange. That's a man from an alternate dimension. But I don't know. It just kind of feels like a project where it feels like they needed to make season 2 of Daredevil. And just didn't matter as much to them, which is sad. But yeah. Also crap, The X-Files. The X-Files is one of the greatest TV shows of all time.
Should never have come back.
What are they doing? David Coveney looks like he's melting the entire time. None of the writers remember how to write. The third episode, after the first 2, which were truly gut-wrenchingly awful, episode 1. Episode 2 was okay. Episode 3 was written by the guy widely renowned amongst fans as the best ever X-Files writer. And it sounded like he'd done that thing again. And it was just awful. So bad. It was because he always did
the X-Files.
And
he always haven't bothered watching it.
He always did the comedy episodes. He was the guy that did like Clyde Bruckman's Final Repose and War of the Copperpages, like these brilliant weird episodes where he would make fun of all the concepts and the characters. And in this one it was just Rhys Darby running around in his pants. Like Mowgli. It was
like
stupid
Mowgli, like
New Zealand Mowgli. It was really annoying.
I don't actually do that.
Oh, what?
Or is that another part of my superhero costume? Is it hoodie up, wonky glasses, and pants only?
And now they're doing another series, and it's just...
Are they?
I think so, and I'm just really sad. It's just so annoying. Like, before it came out, me and Gav were doing, like, events where we showed X-Files to people in pubs because we were obsessed with it and people don't watch it anymore. And now it's just like, I don't want anyone to know that I like X-Files. It's just crap.
Old X-Files.
Was Fargo season 2 on this year?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. Chris really, really rates Fargo.
Fargo is incredible. And if season 2 was this year, let me just say you should watch Fargo season 2. It's one of the most inventive things. So, you know, the first series was like a take on the film, but went a different direction. Season 2 takes an event that is mentioned incredibly briefly in season 1 and makes that the entire season with few little connections to the first series, but essentially is a completely different thing in a different place, and is so amazing at doing that. Just by going, yeah, it's got the same title, like, and the basic conceit of like good people do bad things sometimes.
Yeah.
Here's an entire series, and it's closed. It always does. One series done.
And
that is your story. Fantastic. Nothing else.
Check that out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so good.
Alrighty. If you had to pick one of those things for your highlight of the year, games, movies, or TV, what's it going to be?
Just to be different from Overwatch, I'm going to say Inside.
Okay.
I think Inside's the most surprising thing I've played or seen this year.
Yep.
Like, the things it does to you are so good.
As you could probably tell from my earlier outpouring of adoration, it's probably The Walking Dead this season. My favourite thing. That out of even beating the games list that we've got.
See, I'm going to go Game of Thrones because I was so down on that from the last season.
Yeah,
it wasn't a great season 5, anyway. But the fact that I was like, after investing 50 hours worth of my time watching it, and then coming back with probably the strongest season so far, I was like, it's brilliant.
Yeah,
and it finishes, the last 2 episodes are exceptional.
That's really cool.
I did watch the final episode very, very drunk after we done Drunken Masters, which was probably an error. I was just like, what?
But this Monday, when there wasn't an episode to watch, I was like,
what do I do with myself? Yeah, I found it fascinating. It was Monday and I could go on the IGN homepage without massive spoilers.
Yeah. But so far, it's been a really good year for games, movies, and TV.
It has.
I'm interested to see what comes up.
Movies less so, I think, based on that list.
But it's been a really good year for Disney. 4 of the 5 are Disney films.
We barely talked about Civil War. That was good. Also, Spider-Man Homecoming. Cannot wait now.
Right.
It's going to be brilliant.
So I found Age of Ultron to be so dull that I didn't watch Civil War. I didn't see Civil War.
I think it's way more fun.
I hope so.
Way more fun.
I hope so. Anyway, let's move on to read it. Actually, look, if you've got any feedback on what your games or movies or TV shows
absolutely.
are,
let us know.
So far, let us know. IGN_UK feedback at IGN.com. So this is an email from Philip Hearn who says, Rory's guest introductions on the last podcast, specifically Alysia's, reminded me that in Sunderland there is an old woman who sings 90s pop rave songs on karaoke in one of the less desirable pubs. Her hair is big and grey like a judge's wig, which has led her to the nickname of The Judge.
That's it.
Oh my gosh, you found my weekend hangout, my disguise.
So I'm a superhero.
Yes, I'm an old lady who sings 90s.
Favourite 90s pop rave hit?
Oh, I'm blue, dabba-dee, dabba-da.
Was that 90s?
Yeah, that was
my
totally
late
90s.
90s, probably.
I couldn't tell you what they're called. I liked
Groove is in the Heart? Is that 90s?
That's not rave.
Well, it's pop rave.
Okay.
I don't know. What's she singing? Firestarter?
I don't know. Yeah, but a lot of the stuff I liked didn't have vocals.
Interesting. Maybe she's just doing that. Maybe she's freestyling, beatboxing.
Did you go raving? And did you have the little
fucking glow sticks?
Glow sticks?
No, don't be so stupid.
Did you go to proper raves?
I didn't
illegal
go to
in the field stuff.
I went to the Hacienda a few times.
That's good.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's fascinating.
But I haven't been to a warehouse in the middle of nowhere.
That would be cool.
No.
Oh, this is saddening.
One of those.
I'm enjoying.
barns.
I feel like I've learned so much about you in the course of this podcast.
Most of it made up.
Yeah, that's fine. Right, this is from Livon Young.
Yes.
Livon emailed last week and said that they weren't that happy with Keyword Countdown. They were kind of like, this podcast is meant to be about games, and thought that movies was breaking too far from the fold. So the one this time says, greetings. Awesome Games Done Quick is happening this week. I love hearing the commentary from some of my favourite games. What game could you competitively speedrun? I would probably do Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3. I'm at peace with Keyword Countdown. The podcast is not just Jane.
I really like I'm at peace with Keyword Countdown. That's good. They've been convinced.
I just love that it's in the same paragraph. Like it's always like it's a completely separate email, but then they just add it in at the end.
What game could you competitively
speedrun? Speedrun. I could probably competitively speedrun. It's Tomb Raider Anniversary.
Really?
It's the remake they did of the very first game.
Right.
And yeah, it's like you can just go straight through it because you've already kind of played it back in the first game, but it's even shinier and beautiful, and you know all the levels, and it's gorgeous.
I'll tell you what I could bloody competitively speedrun now is fighting the Great Macau in Monster Hunter Generations.
Oh my god.
Well, why didn't you do that in the video that you did?
Well, because you have to do it 9,000 times. So
Joe and I were doing a Let's Play of Monster Hunter.
The first episode of which will be out now.
Yes, exactly, which you can go check out. But we had loads of problems, technical issues and whatnot, which meant that we basically...
veteran hunter. Joey Screbs.
Well, I was just showing the ropes.
We had
ropes tied around my neck.
Yes, the dudes are killing me. But yeah, we had to basically film the first episode a few times.
Oh
which
my
meant
God.
that we just got, by the end, we were so monster hunted out.
It was a terrifying thing. Although I have since played 8 hours of that game. Nice. So on my own, off my own back. Nice. Made 2 sets of armour. They're brilliant.
Hey!
Oh God, I love Monster Hunter so much.
You just can't perform when you need to.
No, that's exactly it.
Is that it?
It's the pressure gets to me. Stage fright.
You need to take a tip off Mowgli. He can perform in his pants in front of millions.
Let's not talk about a 10-year-old that way.
Okay.
What could you competitively speedrun?
Back in the day, probably the original Quake.
Really?
Yeah,
that's a fast game as well.
I was good at Quake. There was one particular map. God, I think it was called DM4 because it was always like tapping speed to that map. That I knew it so well that when quad damage would appear, I'd got my run round, and as I was running up to it, the quad damage would appear.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And then, like rocket jumping, grenade jumping, all that kind of stuff. Like the rocket jump was just...
Those arena things...
so satisfying.
Those arena things were so good as well. Like in the first Halo, when you and your friends all suddenly worked out where the perfect, the strongest weapon on the map was, and you would all work out your routes to get there, and it would just become like a
everybody
speedrun.
had their own route and different way of getting to these different things. Yeah. And it was probably, I guess if you took a bird's eye view, it's just like trains going around the track with people just firing as they're doing it. But
so good.
And then Quake 2 is also really, really good. Like the railgun in Quake 2 was the best weapon to master.
Could that go through walls? Was that a different railgun?
I don't think so. But it was all about like one-shot kills from miles. It's like a sniper rifle. Yeah. But amazing. And then Quake 3, I never really gelled with quite as much. And the new Quake, it's not good.
I was going to say, they haven't said what it is yet. No. That's the weird thing. No. I'm quite interested.
Like, it's one of the few shooters that you have to play with a mouse and keyboard. I think.
Christ, yeah. Because I played Quake 3 on PS2, and obviously in retrospect at the time I didn't know better, but looking back on it I was just like, that's mad. What a stupid game to try and play that way.
It's crazy.
Good old Quake. Right, last week we were talking about what make good or bad airplane films. Here's one that should be obvious. This is from someone who calls himself Sherbet Face. I once intentionally watched United 93 on a plane. Being a film student at the time, I was genuinely curious about the intensity of the experience. And no, it wasn't screened by the airline. I had to load it onto my media device. This was before smartphones. It was not enjoyable by any means, but never have I felt so invested in the emotion on screen. Which leads into a question I have for you guys. Are there any films you think are greatly enhanced by viewing them in specific conditions? E.g. The Blair Witch Project in the woods or Jaws on the water?
I've never seen either of those films in those environments.
Have you ever watched a film in a weird environment? That might open it up a little bit.
Well, I've never done secret cinema or anything like that. Partly because I feel like if you want to go and watch a film, then you want to watch the film. You don't want all the other guff that comes with it. And I wanted to go and see Empire Strikes Back, but 80 quid a ticket. I was like...
Yeah, but you can do the little... there's like, not secret cinema, but they're like smaller scale versions, like around different parts of London. And
I watched Jurassic Park at Battersea Power Station a couple of years back, and that was brilliant.
That's cool.
That was really fun.
So I did The Matrix.
Hasn't got much to do with.
No, it's just nice.
Okay,
just talking about a cool thing you can do.
Cool things.
Right.
Yeah,
Segue.
They never really have much to do with the locations with the actual film, because I saw The Matrix in a cemetery. Which we were literally sat amongst the ghosts, and it was a birthday present for my ex, and I didn't tell him where we were going, so I was kind of like, oh, it's a surprise, like, follow me. And I was walking into a graveyard like, yes. It was like, Alysia, you're like,
it's the Matrix at the end of it.
Is that what you were doing as well? Like talking like, follow me.
You had like Grim Reaper robes.
Exactly. It's your birthday and your death day.
Okay, to widen this out, are there anything films we reckon could be greatly enhanced by viewing them in specific conditions? What would be good?
Why didn't you give me any prior notice for this question?
I feel I need to prepare.
They're meant to be great improv geniuses.
I never claimed that.
I've heard you shouting, pretending you've got a microphone, doing comedy bits.
I can shout, you're right, but I can't shout anything that makes sense.
What would be good?
I feel like horror movies could always be like helped with setting.
If you watched Wreck in like a closed, abandoned
Barcelona apartment.
Well, yeah, that would be very specific, but yes. What else would be good?
But surely horror films in like graveyards, that would make sense. I'm not sure why The Matrix has been
no
shown.
idea.
No, that's mental.
They lit up all the graves with like green lighting as well. I feel like we should have asked the dead whether they were okay with this.
So that it looked like all the the epitaphs with a code falling down.
And funnily enough, we went back to that graveyard maybe like a month later and played hide and seek.
And watched The Matrix again.
It's really bad. It's really bad, actually. But oh well, sorry, Brompton Cemetery. You're a very beautiful cemetery, and we appreciate all the fun and joy that you have brought.
Maybe get a better person who can choose screenings a little more wisely.
Yes.
One of my earliest memories is watching Ghostbusters at a drive-through. Like a drive-in cinema. Drive-through cinema. You just walk past, go, stapler. And that's haunted me ever since. Ghostbusters is a much scarier film to me because I was.
Where did you see that?
Canada.
Okay.
That's where I grew up.
Canada.
But yeah, it was, and like, I feel now like Ghostbusters is a way scarier film because it was a place I was unfamiliar with. I didn't know why we were there, and there were ghosts. It's a really funny film, but to me it's terrifying still. The librarian haunts everything I do.
Well, that's a scary moment.
I know, but like, yeah, imagine that, being 4-year-old in a car.
4?
Yeah, I think I was 4.
That's bad.
I think my parents
parenting.
were quite irresponsible. I must have been 4 or 5.
There are people who listen to this podcast. I think somebody's written in a number of times about 4D experiences where you have like wind blowing in your face and water pistols squirting and stuff like that. That to me is just like, why would you want that?
I'd quite like that in a really dumb disaster movie, though.
Or like Titanic.
San Andreas.
Someone there like throwing stuff.
Just a big bucket of fish and water.
Yes. Like,
just herring landing on you.
Just walking out. It was like, that was really good.
Yeah, and when that guy falls into the propeller, they just chuck you into a propeller. That'd be good.
Just at the end, it slowly fills up with water.
There's one
Give you
door
a pair of goggles.
for the entire audience.
Yes.
Gosh. Do we have time for one more?
This is an email from Nick Sherwood who said, with regard to unnecessary sequels.
Oh, we were talking about that last week.
I was going to say, okay. I'd point out that the best or most agreeable films of recent years have all been sequels too. ? The industry is geared to guaranteed successes. 95% of that is in the category for biggest possible return.
Well, he says 2 different things there, that sequels can be good and also that the film industry is geared to make things that make money. That's not those aren't like inclusive with each other. I'd agree. Well, I don't know. What are the best sequels? Like, Iron Man 2 was shit. That's all I've got.
Empire Strikes Back is good.
That is true.
Lion King 2 was amazing. I know that's a very long time ago.
Yeah, you've said this before. I don't get it.
It's really good. It has the best song ever. Will not hear a word against.
Best song ever.
Such a good song that it's used in Lion King the musical.
Right.
I don't like.
Which is basically the first film, but they took a song.
I've seen Lion King the musical. I don't remember.
Do you remember?
The
He
rogue
lives
song.
in you. Hey, yeah.
No one remembers that song.
He lives in me.
This is the thing.
I know what you're talking about.
Everyone.
Is it Simba's Pride? Is that Lion King 2 or is that Lion King 3?
Yes, it is. It's Simba's Pride. Oh, Lion King 3 we don't talk about.
You should know. You're
I just know it's
touting it as
Lion
one of
King
the
2.
greatest films ever made.
I don't deal in specifics.
Right.
But like, everyone.
Otherwise, I'd just call it Episode 5. I wouldn't call it Empire Strikes Back. That's important.
I mean, Yeah, it's fine.
Anyway,
I would say
Empire
that
Strikes Back is better than Simba's Pride.
That's
what I'm saying.
this is the thing. Every sequel I can think of that I think is really good would be a sequel I would consider significantly different from the film it follows. So Empire Strikes Back is way darker, way more interesting story-wise, and like, say, Toy Story 2, like, that's a much... They're always sadder. Toy Story 2 is a much...
And Toy Story 3, really sad.
Yeah, like, and it has a very different message. It's going for a different thing.
Yeah.
Like, they've got the same people, but it feels quite separate. You could watch it as a standalone film. Whereas, I don't know. Most of the time,
where do you stand on
sequels.
Fast and Furious?
I've never watched a Fast
Have
and
you
Furious
not?
film.
See, I'd never until last year, and
I watched all of them.
I did.
Fast and Furious.
My God.
In one go.
It was one that, like, I used most of my train time to watch either TV or films or whatever, and because I'd not seen any of them, and
7 was on the way.
7 came out, I thought, well, I should watch them. And
So you can really understand why the loss of Paul Walker was so harrowing.
it's genuinely moving.
Was it?
Well, he was probably the most likable thing about those films.
Was it? Okay. I don't know anything about him. I didn't know who he was when it happened.
No. Like Tokyo Drift, which is 4, I think. Man, that is a bad movie.
Really?
Like, skip that one. You don't need to watch that.
Is there an integral storyline?
No, you've got the same character. Like, they're so stupid.
Yeah.
In every sense of the word. And, like, quite a lot of the time I find them... Well, the early ones I found offensive because of their portrayal of women.
Right.
But by the end, and when you've got The Rock and everyone doing stuff, it's dumb fun.
Fair play. So just watch the last one, is what you're saying.
I think it's 5, 6, 7.
5, 6, 7, that's the trilogy.
5,
Yeah.
6,
Okay,
7.
it took him a while. So isn't that Fast and Furious guy doing something quite good now? He's doing something interesting.
Well, is it James Wan? Is that the director?
No, that's...
No, he's conjuring and stuff,
Yeah,
isn't
he's
he?
horror guy.
I think he was one of the X-Files writers.
I can't remember his name.
yeah.
Anyway,
Cool.
that's it. Any other feedback?
We do have one final piece.
Oh my
Do we have
God.
time for this? The
We'll make
heading.
time for it, shall we?
The heading is "Please love me" in capital letters with exclamation marks. So this is part of a saga. We've had a load of emails through from Emily Arcia, who she says this week. Hi guys.
Wait, let's pre-see this, because Alex hasn't...
Okay, are you not familiar with?
No.
Week 1, Amelia writes in saying that Alysia is the best. Oh my God, my brain just went wrong from Amelia to Alysia. There we go.
It's quite a hard. I feel like it's become a bit of a double act.
Yeah, Amelia and Alysia.
Yeah.
Week 1, she says Alicia's the best.
Yeah.
And Rory gets upset.
Right.
Week 2, she writes in saying that Rory's the best, joint with Alysia. The rest of us get upset. This is week 3.
Right.
So this week, hi guys. Who could have guessed? Oh, I feel really like bad reading this about. Okay.
Shall I do it?
Yeah.
So I'll put in the
Go on.
I'll put in the requisite amount of scorn.
Go on then.
Right.
Hey guys. I'm not going to do that. Who could have guessed that Judge fan number 1, aka Amelia, who's become a character now apparently, would reply at least one more time? I feel like me trying to tell everyone why I love them really backfired, especially my sarcastic comments about loving Rory the most. I still love you, Rory. So I'm going to try again, and maybe this time everyone will be happy. I mean, God, for a group almost entirely made up of guys, you're a roller coaster of emotions each week.
She's brilliant.
Sexist. So this is against women. So this is why I love everyone on the podcast. All of you have great bants with all of you. You are all really funny.
Cop out.
You all have my favourite name. But again, who am I to judge?
Wink.
He literally says wink. I think that maybe after all the unfortunate misinterpretation of the last... Misinterpretation, like it's our fault. Oh, fucking hell. Unfortunate misinterpretation of the last 2 podcasts, I may have to simply embrace my favouritism. Alysia is the coolest, it has to be said, and while I've never seen them on camera, she probably has the coolest shoes.
I do. Look at my shoes. They are like. They've got gold toes. Do you see? Like twinkle toe shoes, and they've got zips at the side. Yeah. These are cool. You look so impressed, Alex.
I think you guys
I
know
just
everything.
wonder what's happened to this podcast.
Yeah.
I was on this podcast in 2009. It's a goddamn shambles.
I think you guys know everything I say is in jest because you guys are brilliant on the podcast, no matter the combination of hosts. I hope you all still love me because I love all of you equally. You just said you didn't. No. I'm never disappointed by who is on the podcast. Also, just quickly, I also finished Inside, and holy crap, what the heck? Please do a spoiler cast. I would like to. I haven't missed a single episode of the podcast since I started watching years ago because it's always a highlight to my week. I finished my second year of A-levels recently with exams, and now I just meditate for 6 days and 23 hours until the next episode. Listen and then go back to meditation.
So does she listen or watch?
Watch
Listen.
and? Well, I don't know.
No,
actually.
she said that she hadn't watched the. She doesn't watch the.
She said I started watching years ago. This is a mystery.
This is interesting.
This is an ARG. Usually, I actually listen to the podcast a second time.
It's a goddamn bot, isn't it? It's not
It's
real.
a bot.
It's a sex bot.
Oh my god.
We get loads of weird
second.
emails to our sex bot emails.
She's not asking to have sex with us. Though.
Emilia.
But they're not.
Do you know
They're
what?
just a little bit. They're like, oh hi, how you doing? You're really nice. That's exactly what.
Do you know what Amelia sounds like?
Whoa.
Emailia. Email bot. Usually I actually listen to the podcast a second time in the week because I laugh again at what you all say because you're all amazing. Oh my God. Please love me. I love all of you exactly the same amount. I'm sorry, Alysia. My love for you must be suppressed. Oodles of love, Amelia Arcia. P.S. This bit's weird. P.S. I checked. Krupa means forgiveness, compassion, and blessings. So at least Dan technically has to forgive me for saying I love Rory the most because his name says so. # blessed. Also, Murphy means sea warrior, which I'm sure is not true. That cannot be real.
Sea warrior.
I'm going to ask Murphy. Murphy means sea warrior, which I thought was cool. In comparison, my last name, Arcia, apparently comes from misspellings or pronunciations of Garcia. So basically, I have my last name because of a typo. Again, # blessed. And that's it, I think. Yes.
That is incredible. That was a roller coaster of emotion.
Amelia, you're fantastic.
Yeah.
And you've really caused problems in this group of people.
Yes.
Are you
Discord.
upset?
No, I'm all right now.
I think she made
confident in
very
myself.
clear.
You are confident in yourself. I always say that about you. That's why you walk around in pants all the time.
What else do you say about me?
Just all sorts of things.
Where would I rank in your podcast lineup?
Oh, I couldn't tell you that.
God damn it!
That's coming. That's end of year.
Right.
That's going to be my ranking.
our
We're all going to do
ranking.
our top 10s of the year, and I'm just going to do it based on all of us.
There's not even 10 of us.
Well, I'll add some. They'll be at the bottom.
Well,
Amelia's going to be on that list. Amelia's now part of the podcast, so
Clearly, she's been on 3 episodes.
exactly. It's more than Tilly's been on for
Recurring.
ages.
More than I've been on as well. Anyway, that's it for this week's podcast. Thank you, as always, for listening. Don't forget you can email us at IGN_UK feedback, IGN_UK feedback, IGN.com, and we will be back same time next week. Till then, bye-bye.
Bye.